Hi guys, it's Blackie for Shaman's Forge Woodscraft. Okay, today continuing with the Percussion Revolver series, I would like to answer a question that one of my followers had about why the ring appears on the cylinder of a percussion revolver, what's going on, why does it do this, etc. So I'm going to zoom in on my dry erase board where I've done some fantastic artwork, don't laugh. But it should give you a representation of the parts. I thought about just holding up the individual part, but really it would be as good as this. So, without much ado, let's go to the board and I'll tell you what we're going to talk about. Okay guys, what we're going to talk about today is this device right here. Now, it's sometimes called the bolt stop, the cylinder lock, the cylinder toggle, the etc. But we're going to call it, for the sake of this argument, the cylinder stop, okay? And that the part that actually protrudes up through the base plate to actually engage the cylinder is actually called the bolt stop, okay? Now, what this entire bolt component is made out of is basically a teeter-totter. It has a center bolt going through the center of it, and then it has a spring holding pressure on it. On the face of the hammer, you have a belled cam. Now this cam sits up inside this curve right here. And what it does is the end of the bolt comes up here. It looks like a pair of old-time handles on a horse-drawn plow. And it does a similar idea. They're spread apart, and they kind of will flex, okay? Now this cam on the hammer, what it does is when you cock the hammer, it hooks the back of one of those, actually the one closest to the wall of those two plow handles, and tips it up, which has the effect of tipping up on this end against spring pressure. The bolt is withdrawn, it tips on the pin, it drops. The cylinder can now rotate. At point X, it lifts up, and this cam is not complete. It reaches point X and it kind of rolls out of the way, and then the bolt drops back. So it does like that, and it drops. Spring tension drops the plow handles back into position. Now, once that hammer is fully cocked and that cam is moved up, it's now physically above the plow handles. And the plow handles are facing back like this. Upon firing, that bevel on the bottom right here of that edge will drop beside one of those plow handles and kind of push it out of the way, so it kind of pops back past it like that. And then, so here's the plow handle. That cam is going to come down, hit it, push it out of the way, and drop, where it will then pop back over. And then on the next cocking, it comes up and it catches it to tip it, drop. On firing, slap, it goes down, click, it's back over, catch up. So that's what these two plow handles do, okay? Their job is to lift it up. When it's being cammed, it lifts up and therefore pivots it, okay? The spring right here has two tabs. One tab, the long one, goes to the trigger, and one tab, the short one, goes on to the bolt. Where a lot of people make the mistake is they overwork that spring. They're torquing it down so hard. You gotta excuse me guys, I hurt my back, and right then I got a good jolt. They torque it down so hard that the spring is being overworked. Instead of it being flush and working like it's supposed to, it's actually downhill and it's being forced to do this. And therefore that spring wants to snap. You need just enough tension on that spring to get proper function and no more. You don't need that spring totally bottomed out, blood tight. You just need to screw it in to the point that all functions work properly and that the two fingers are working correctly. Don't keep torquing. And that's where I see a lot of problems with this is, one, those springs are tightened down so tight so that whenever that hammer lets go of that plowshare and it pops back up, it's now against the actual cylinder with a lot of tension on it because that spring is so tight. And the as the cylinder rotates, the top edge of the bolt that actually sticks through and locks is grinding against the cylinder. And since this bolt piece that sticks up must be hardened so it doesn't wear out easily, it's usually harder than the cylinder. So hard metal cuts soft metal. So as you cock and it's dragging, called dragging, that's what's occurring. Now what can you do about it is on the side of the cylinder, and this is a very poor representation of a cylinder, but there are the cones or nipples, and there's the channel. It's a rectangle with a lead into it. The object of the game is that theoretically, when you would cock the hammer, the cam on the hammer lifts up that plowshare, which causes the bolt to tip downhill. The hand pushes the cylinder, it rotates. Theoretically, at the right position, that bolt should come back up and ride into that bevel section leading into that slot on the cylinder. The lead, it should land on that and then go in. Once it's in position, the square sides of the bolt coming up should lock like that into the notch in the cylinder. This prevents side to side of the cylinder because the two side faces lock into that. But the front edge, the edge that's when the cylinder is rotating, it's to the cylinder, so to speak. Okay? That leading edge that's going in first when it rotates in, that edge, you can break the edge. Just take a file or something and just make sure there's nothing sharp there. Do not remove a lot of material. That's not the point. Just make sure it's not a sharpened edge there, so it's more likely to ride and slide than dig in to the softer cylinder. And a lot of times I've seen guns that just had a beautiful ring cut all the way around, and you pop out the bolt and look at the bolt, and the side of the bolt is so sharp it almost wants to cut you, because whoever created it when they were filing it and etc. At the factory didn't break that edge. So kind of soften that edge a little bit, but don't go down. Just take that knife sharp edge off so that it will slide on the cylinder without doing a lot of damage instead of digging in, and it will still go up and lock into that notch so that this width is the same width as this, and it bites. If you take stuff off the side, then you get a cylinder that wants to get out of alignment left right because it's not fitting. Okay? So to recap, one of the major causes of that ring around the cylinder is too strong a spring, a overzealous edge on the bolt face where it actually comes through, and the fact that the cam on the hammer may be dropping it a tad too soon. Now what you can do without having to fit a bunch of new parts is A, make sure that that window, that hole, that bolt comes up through the frame is deburred and it's smooth, it's not sticky. Okay? Second, that the actual edge of the bolt on the side that's sliding in first has been rounded just a little bit. Okay? Also make sure that when you cock it slowly, if you hear a very pronounced click as that bolt pops up, it means you got a little bit too much spring tension. When you assemble the gun after a detail cleaning or whatever, a thing that I do to make my life a little easier is the notch on the screw, I turn it to a given position and I'll mark on the frame. So I turn that edge back, line up a little drop of paint or fingernail polish or whatever. That way I know about where to set it. That way I've got enough tension for the gun to work, and yet not so much tension that I'm overworking the spring. Overworking the spring is a major reason those springs pop. And it's because when they mill out and they put that spring in there, it's actually a touch too low. And when you torque it on down here with this screw, now the spring is actually kind of working uphill. And it breaks right there because it's doing this. If it would be just brought down flush, it will work a whole lot better and a whole lot longer. How do I know how much tension? Very simply, and this is going to take the most time. Assemble the Colt without the mainspring, back strap, or trigger guard on it. But put in the trigger, the bolt, both of the screws and the spring. Now mechanically cock the hammer and see if everything's working. Cylinder will rotate and everything. If it's not locking up, give it just a little bit more. Do it to where you can manually cock it, pull the trigger, let off, do it 2 or 3 times, and when you're at full cock, the bolt is in the right position. It's staying snug. If that's the case, you've got enough tension. Put the grip strap on it and put the back strap on it, and you're good to go. Hope this helps, guys. Please leave any questions or comments below. And until next time, I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Woodscraft, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.